I can hardly believe what I just saw. The greatest comeback in the history of the NBA Finals. The New York Knicks were down 29 points in Game 4 to the San Antonio Spurs in Madison Square Garden and fought and clawed their way all the way back. And I can't wait to talk about this game because I was so wrong about the New York Knicks. I doubted them all season long, all playoff long, and they have proved me wrong over and over and over again. And tonight was just an emphasis, an exclamation point on what they've accomplished this season. They were down 29 points, 27 at halftime, and they slowly were fighting back, and you could feel the momentum shifting pretty much from the point that Victor Wembanyama got his flagrant foul. They were slowly clawing their way back in this basketball game. Jalen Brunson playing out of his mind. OG Anunoby out of his mind. Down the stretch, Jose Alvarado hitting big shots. And on the final possession of the game, or the final possession for the Knicks, I should say, Jalen Brunson gets a pretty good look from about 30 feet from three. He misses it a little short where OG Anunoby crashes the board and hits the game-sealing layup, putback layup, to finish the night with 33 points on 7 3-pointers. Jalen Brunson himself finished the night with 36 points. Those two basketball players were playing at a championship level. And we know that OG Anunoby has won a championship before, and we know what Jalen Brunson is capable of. But being able to do this in a Game 4, the deciding game of the series in a lot of ways. You had a 2-0 lead, winning 2 games in San Antonio, and if you lose those 2 games at home, it puts so much pressure on you. Not that the series would have been over, but there would have been a ton of pressure on the New York Knicks. And for them to be able to come back in a game where Cat was in foul trouble early, a game where they did not have it. They were down 76-49 at halftime. And the way that they fought back was incredible. They made big shot after big shot, big stop after big stop. And what they did on the defensive end of the court was truly what was so impressive because, like I said, the Spurs had 76 points at halftime. They finished the game with 106. They had 41 points in the first quarter, and in the second half scored 30. You have to give so much credit to the New York Knicks because you see in those late game situations, players will revert to their worst habits or to their greatest skill sets. It really emphasizes who you are when the pressure is on you most. We saw it when the Boston Celtics were playing the Golden State Warriors in 2022. They were not ready for that moment, and they turned the ball over, and they reverted to the style of play that was not winning basketball. What you saw tonight from Jalen Brunson, from OG Anunoby, was everything that makes those two players so great. They reverted to what makes them special. Big shots, smart basketball, clutch gene. So many impressive things, and the San Antonio Spurs showed that they were too young, too inexperienced, and fell apart down the stretch. And we will get more into the Spurs here in a minute because I really want to talk about the way that they handled the end of this game. I thought the coach did a terrible job. Wemby missed 2 free throws. Fox got the ball with like 14 seconds left and decided to go up with a layup, got blocked when he could have just tried to dribble the ball out. They didn't box out OG Anunoby on that final putback layup, but I really want to focus on what the New York Knicks did. Because at one point in this game, disclaimer, I have to get up for work in about 4 hours. So when this game was a 29-point game, I was sitting here considering, is it time to, call it a night and go to bed and, see what happened in the morning? But I held out for the start of the third quarter where the Knicks went on a 13-0 run. And you're like, all right, well, they're kind of in the basketball game. It feels like the momentum has shifted in a sense, and they're playing much better in this second half. Well, then the Knicks kept going on runs. They kept punching back. They kept putting all the pressure on the San Antonio Spurs. And it was mainly their leader, Jalen Brunson, who was getting to the basket at an elite level. And I was going back watching old NBA Finals. I was watching the 1990 NBA Finals between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Detroit Pistons. And you watch Isaiah Thomas, who is the smallest player on the basketball court, find ways to get to the rim, find ways to hit mid-range jump shots, and impose his will even though he's the shortest player on the court. And that is what Jalen Brunson did tonight. And he reminds me of Isaiah Thomas in that sense that even though they're so small, undersized, short, criticized for their height. The way that Jalen Brunson has imposed his will on this basketball game and on this season for the New York Knicks is special. And it's why when you're having conversations about who is the greatest New York Knick of all time and who, King of New York, all these conversations, these types of moments really matter. Because winning the finals is one thing, but having special moments that we will remember for the rest of our lives. We remember the Cavs coming back from 3-1 down to beat the Golden State Warriors. We remember these huge shots that Ray Allen hit. So many big moments. Kobe throwing an alley-oop to Shaq in the early 2000s. You think of so many great playoff moments. What a game I will absolutely remember is the New York Knicks coming back from 29 points down, hitting a game-winning layup on a tip-in by OG Anunoby, and reinforcing the fact that this New York Knicks starting five is the best starting five in the entire NBA. On a night where Karl Anthony Towns, was in foul trouble, even though he was doing some nice things when he was on the court. He was 4 or 5 from the field. He actually led the game with a plus 17, or led the Knicks, I should say. Led the game with a plus 17 in his time on the court. And in the second half, he really did some nice things. Jalen Brunson hitting big shot after big shot, getting to the rim, hitting middies, hitting three-pointers. Such an impressive game from him. And OG Anunoby was the unsung hero of this series so far for the New York Knicks. He's a champion for a reason. And I just could not be more impressed by the job that the New York Knicks did. I think Mike Brown did a great job instilling belief in this basketball team. A lot of teams will go into halftime down that many points and they'll throw the towel. They'll give up. But we have seen the Knicks come back time and time again. And that's what makes this team so special. Even if you remember last season for the Knicks against the Celtics in round 2. The Celtics got off the leads, and the Knicks would just keep it close, keep fighting, until you got down the stretch into those closing moments. And the Knicks, in crunch time, late in the fourth quarter, believe they can win any game. And it's so special. Jose Alvarado, I thought, did some incredible things in this basketball game. Down the stretch, there were times when it felt like you needed someone else to help generate a basket for the New York Knicks. And Jose Alvarado did that down the stretch on multiple occasions. He hit a crazy spin into a layup. He hit a 3-point shot. He finished the game. How many points? He finished the game with 8 points on 2 3-pointers. But it felt like so big in that moment. Defensively, they're making things very difficult on the San Antonio Spurs. And obviously, it takes two to tango. We saw what the Spurs fell apart and what they did down the stretch. And pretty disappointing if you're a Spurs fan, a Wemby fan, someone who believes he will put himself in, all-time conversations. What they did down the stretch was really disappointing, but you just have to credit the New York Knicks so much for what they accomplished, and the fact that they're up 3-1 in this series, going back to San Antonio for Game 5, they're absolutely in the driver's seat, and without question, you feel like the New York Knicks are the better basketball team and the best basketball team on the planet. I want to touch briefly on the San Antonio Spurs because down the stretch of this basketball game was really disgusting. Like I said, you only scored 30 points in the second half. They felt so tight, man. Turnovers, missed shots. Wemby goes up to the free throw line and smokes 2 free throws with like 2 minutes left in this basketball game. De'Aaron Fox, they get the basketball with 14 seconds left. And if De'Aaron Fox just dribbles the ball out or waits to get fouled, the Spurs are in an excellent position. Instead, he tries to quickly go up for a layup where he gets blocked. Knicks get the ball, and that's the ensuing, Jalen Brunson 3 into the OG Anunoby putback. And I'm just losing my mind. What is De'Aaron Fox doing? Why is the coach not calling timeouts? Mitch Johnson, what are you doing out there? When the Knicks are making runs like this, you have to call timeouts. You have to stop the bleeding. And I don't understand the way that this game was coached. I don't understand the way that the players were rushing so much. And you could just tell the inexperience bleeding through so much in this basketball game. And it's something that the Spurs have been able to overcome, through the first 3 rounds of this playoffs. But it seems like the New York Knicks are just too good to overcome those kinds of mistakes. In this series, we have seen the Spurs lose 2 games where they absolutely melted down the stretch. Game 2, when Victor Wembanyama throws a pass off of Stephon Castle's back, and then they foul Jalen Brunson. Wemby misses a wide open, mid-range shot to lose that basketball game. Tonight, just falling apart in every way imaginable. To score 14 points in the third quarter, 16 points in the fourth quarter is devastating. You will look back on this for a very, very long time if you're the San Antonio Spurs, if you're a player on that team, if you're a fan of that organization. Because even though the Knicks did incredible things, you have to feel like so disappointed in the way that your team performed. And I want to give all the credit to the New York Knicks, because to hit all those shots, to make those plays is really special. But what the Spurs did down the stretch, you just have to feel sick to your stomach. Obviously, you're going back to San Antonio for Game 5, and that's a pride game. That's all about your pride. Will you let go of the reins and let the New York Knicks wipe the floor with you the way that they did the Cleveland Cavaliers, the way that they did the Philadelphia 76ers, or will you have some pride and go out there and compete? We'll see. I imagine this Spurs team, they're very competitive. I think that they'll put up a good fight in Game 5 or if there's a Game 6. But the New York Knicks, you could not be more impressed by what they were able to accomplish tonight. They're up 3-1 in the NBA Finals. I absolutely believe at this point that the New York Knicks are going to win the NBA Finals, even though I had my doubts on them, parts throughout the season. They had a 2-9 stretch at one point in the season, and it just felt like they were a little up and down at times, but they are clicking at a high level. And what their superstar Jalen Brunson has done is special. It'll be remembered for a very, very long time. It'll be remembered forever in the city of New York. And that's all we got for you regarding this game. If you love the NBA, make sure you take a second to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate y'all watching. Cyborg out.